This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Manitoba is once again rolling out an ankle bracelet program to monitor criminals and suspects. But this time it's more expansive, not only covering more ground, but also supporting survivors of intimate partner violence. It's one way the province is hoping to give people some peace of mind. The CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
This device is really is cutting edge.
Justice Minister Matt Wiebe showing off an ankle bracelet, a device the province wants to see far and wide.
So we're taking action to make rural Manitoba safer for you and for your family.
Back in August, the NDP government confirmed this tool to keep track of alleged criminals was returning to Manitoba after a multi-year absence. On Friday, the province said electronic monitoring would be offered beyond just Winnipeg.
We've not only reinstated that program, we're building and now expanding on that important work.
This is being expanded in communities with police stations so they can respond to people breaching their bail conditions quickly. The province has made arrangements with around 20 police forces like the RCMP here in Selkirk, as well as police in Brandon, Steinbach, and Portage la Prairie. More offenders are now eligible for GPS monitoring too. Now police can keep tabs on those accused of intimate partner violence. And survivors have a mobile app that lets them alert the authorities if the accused is violating their bail conditions.
We take a step toward building a society where women can live without fear.
So far, only about 30 people have been fitted with ankle bracelets, though the province bought 100 of them. The Justice Minister says he feels the courts have been using this option judiciously. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Selkirk.
A transgender advocate is raising concerns about one of the candidates running to lead Manitoba's Progressive Conservatives. The candidate is Wally Dowdrich, and the concern stems from a Facebook comment from 3 years ago. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
Two candidates are running for Manitoba PC leader, Fort White MLA Abi Khan and Churchill hotelier Wally Dowdrich. The party approved both candidates after screening their social media. The PC Leadership Selection Committee won't say whether that screening included a 2021 Facebook post by Dowdrich about U.S. Assistant Health Secretary Rachel Levine, a trans woman. I feel very sorry for this man dressed in woman's clothing. He has been duped by our shallow, decadent pop culture. We are experiencing a moral freefall. In an interview, Dowdrich confirmed he made the comment, but said he's not opposed to transgender rights.
We all have and should enjoy equal rights, whether a person claims to be transgender or bisexual or whatever.
An advocate for transgender rights says they're disappointed the PC's permitted Dowdrich to run for leader.
It's scary and harmful towards trans and gender non-conforming folks that this person has the potential to take a position of leadership.
The PC Leadership Selection Committee says approving candidates does not equal endorsing their past statements. Dowdrich says his views are in line with the party. When asked about his suggestion transgender people have been duped, he pointed to a debate in the 1970s about the mandatory use of seatbelts.
We spent several years discussing it as a society. So now we have situations or societal questions that are being decided without proper consultation with people.
Rival candidate Abi Khan declined to comment on Dowdrich's Facebook post. Charlie O says they don't support Khan's candidacy either because the Fort White MLA made himself the face of the PC's parental rights campaign. Progressive Conservatives will announce their new leader on April 26th. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Students and faculty at Brandon University says more needs to be done to keep them safe. They want a safety and security town hall held as soon as possible. It comes after the attack and robbery of a student Saturday near the campus. CBC's Chelsea Kemp has the story.
We need to feel safe.
Confronting Brandon University's president about security on campus, Charles Adamu and other students say they don't feel safe when they're at school after a student was attacked and robbed near the university last weekend.
It's disheartening. It's sad. It's caused caused a lot of students distress.
The Faculty Association says staff have been calling for a campus safety audit for over a year. Staff and students are also demanding a town hall as soon as possible about safety on campus.
This issue is something that the faculty and students are united on, and we will be working together to make sure that the administration does meaningful things.
Brandon University says it's getting an independent safety audit, and it's recently doubled security. The president says this work was underway before Saturday's robbery.
We're taking action. Certainly the safety audit will help go a long way about finding blind spots, not just in cameras, but other areas that, other things that we're missing. We started making use of our critical incident team.
Dr. Mashumi Majumber says lab research for her biology course can happen late at night or early in the morning. She's set up her own security measures to ensure student safety, but says the responsibility falls on everyone.
We cannot just lean on student, whether they should be careful when they're coming. This is a campus, this belongs to them. They should feel safe all the time.
Right now, students are on campus late at night studying for final exams. Adamu says students want to feel safe walking home after.
Administration really need to put their foot on the pedal on this one because students are not happy. We want answers.
Police are searching for the two men suspected of Saturday's attack. They say the assault appears random and are asking any witnesses to come forward. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
This stretch of Wellington Crescent has seen its share of collisions involving pedestrians and cyclists. A push to lower speeds on the street is making its way to council. But questions about where to reduce speeds and how effective that will be was the subject of debate today at City Hall. People packed a committee room in support of a motion to lower the speed on a section of Wellington to 30 kilometers per hour. Among them was Wendy Van Loon. Van Loon's husband, Rob Jenner, died in June after he was hit by a driver going more than 150 kilometers per hour.
He was killed on Wellington Crescent on June 6th of this year, and so far no actions have been taken to slow down vehicles there. Next Friday, it'll be 6 months since his death.
The original draft of the motion from Fort Rouge East Fort Garry councillor Sherry Rowlands would have reduced the speed from River Avenue to Kenniston Boulevard. But after River Heights Fort Garry councillor John Orlico raised concerns about making decisions without advice from traffic engineers, it was changed to end the reduced speed zone at Academy Road. Rowland says many people have called her to demand the motion revert to its original version.
I don't believe we need a report in order to get something done as fast as possible to reduce, in particular, that component of Wellington.
Public Works Chair Janice Luke says she agrees lower speeds are safer, but she thinks physical changes to the roadway would be a more permanent solution.
They're looking at what they can do from a built environment perspective, because it's one thing to put a speed limit up, it's another thing that it become effective.
City planners have said Wellington Crescent is both a major active transportation route and a busy traffic thoroughfare with around 15,000 vehicles per day. In the end, the committee set the boundary of the 30-kilometer zone at Academy and asked city staff to come up with an interim plan to improve cyclist and pedestrian safety. The reduced speed limit still has to go to council for final approval. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A year after the Hanover School Division's educational assistants went on strike, there's now layoffs. The school division says 93 EAs have been let go. The division says it's due to the unexpected loss of federal funding for Jordan's Principal programming. Jordan's Principal offers funding for First Nations students to help with a range of health, social, and educational needs. The division says it's committed to supporting affected employees and minimizing disruption to student learning. It also says it's working to restore funding and find long-term solutions to sustain these critical supports. Riley Lachuk in now, and Riley, boy oh boy, was it a chilly morning out today.
Yeah, particularly in western parts of the province where, again, we have an extreme cold warning in place, which I'll get into in a moment. This morning, minus 27 in Brandon, minus 26 in Melita, minus 14 in Winnipeg. The temperature started falling as we got through the later afternoon. As we get into the afternoon hours here, still in the minus 20s this hour for Westman, minus 18 in Winnipeg. We have an extreme cold warning in place. This for the Dauphin region, Riding Mountain National Park, Brandon, down into the Killarney region. We're looking at temperatures near -30 overnight tonight. Feeling closer to -40 with the wind chill. This means frostbite on exposed skin in about 10 minutes or less. So keep that in mind, especially if you're in the west. Doesn't mean it's not going to be cold elsewhere, but we're looking at some very cold temperatures into the western part of the province. Cloud starts to build in Winnipeg again tonight, looking down to -21 overnight. The winds stay a little bit on the breezy side as we get through the morning once again. -20 first thing, and we're aiming for a -12, Brittany, tomorrow afternoon. Slight chance I could see a couple of flurries as we get through the later part of the day. I'll have your weekend forecast when I come back.
Thanks so much, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have to take a very quick break. There's more local news straight ahead. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. The province's police watchdog is looking to speak to a person who they believe witnessed the interaction between officers and a man that led to a fatal shooting earlier this week. The incident happened Sunday outside a bus shelter in the parking lot of the Unicity Mall. 2 officers fired at a man they say stabbed an officer in the neck before guns were drawn. A 24-year-old man from Nunavut was killed. Today, the Independent Investigation Unit released these still images based on video footage. Investigators believe the person witnessed the shooting, but they haven't been able to identify them. 5 remote First Nations in Manitoba will be building new schools as part of a federal program announcement. Federal Minister of Indigenous Services, Patty Hajdu, says that for decades, Indigenous children in the North have had to leave the communities to get their grade 12. Tatasqueyak Cree Nation, Norway House and Garden Hill are among those who will get new schools. Garden Hill's education director says the current high school is closed because the electrical system has deteriorated. He says he has hope for the little kids there.
And I'm happy that they're going to have a new school. They don't have to worry about fires. They don't have to worry about heat. They don't have to worry about mold. We have all of those problems at the high school right now.
He hopes schools in the communities will lead people there to become educators in the future for northern communities. Parks Canada is establishing an ecological corridor in Manitoba to conserve biodiversity and protect natural habitat. The project will create a belt of green space along the Little Saskatchewan River from Riding Mountain National Park to the Assiniboine River. It's aimed at improving water quality in local river systems and helping maintain species at risk. Parks Canada will provide nearly $1 million in funding for it. MP Terry Duguid says the corridor will be developed with municipal governments, willing landowners, and Indigenous groups. He says it will be managed to ensure sustainable development and livelihoods exist along it for decades to come.
These landscapes hold a special place in our heart, not just because of their beauty, but for their role in sustaining our communities and our ecosystems. Protecting our shared natural heritage is one of the most important responsibilities of any government.
Canada has set a target of protecting 30% of land and inland waters and 30% of marine and coastal areas by 2030. Well, it was a messy and slow start to the day for many drivers this morning after a severe water main break left crews with a major cleanup. Water flowed down Logan Avenue between McPhillips and Yeoman Streets. It resulted in stalled vehicles and traffic delays during the morning commute. The city says it's working at isolating the leak. One eastbound lane on Logan Avenue between McPhillips and Weston will remain closed until further notice. The city expects repairs will be completed Saturday or Sunday. That was a messy, messy morning. And Riley, one thing I noticed on your last weather hit was how warm, quote unquote, it looked up in Churchill, -5. It's a nice change to see the north that warm in comparison to the south.
Things are changing. We're looking at Churchill in particular, some very gusty winds ushering in some colder air as we get through the weekend. Some very windy conditions along the Hudson Bay coast.
It's normally them that were saying, ooh, it looks cold up there.
I know.
So Brandon's eyeing them saying, I wish.
Exactly. We're looking at another cold morning and colder morning here in the Red River Valley as well. So we did get some nice sunshine, a mix of sun and clouds for the afternoon today. That Arctic ridge that brought some of those cool temperatures into Westman and into parts of Saskatchewan through the night last night, just strong enough to start pushing some of this stratus cloud that we've been under for quite some time off into northwestern Ontario. In that, still a few flurries into northwestern Ontario and some cloud into the Whiteshell, but yes, a nice sunny day, and with that came some falling temperatures in the city of Winnipeg today. Hope you enjoyed the sun today because things are changing. As we get into the overnight period, we start to introduce some of that cloud once again as we get into the morning hours on Saturday. Still, though, a mix of sun and clouds back to the west and a very cold morning ahead for Brandon into the Westman region with some temperatures approaching that -30 mark. The cloud fills in early as we get through the rest of the day. Along the Hudson Bay coast, a few flurries yet to come, and onshore flow with the northwesterly winds will cool things down a bit as we get through the weekend into Churchill and Shamattawa with very windy conditions. Into Sunday, mainly cloudy once again, and a skiff of snow coming to extreme western Manitoba as this system out of Saskatchewan just kind of skirts its way south. Chance of flurries Sunday in Brandon, but other than that, this system really misses us as we get into the later part of Sunday and into Monday, which we can expect a little bit more clearing as we get into the start of next week. Winds tomorrow will still be a little bit on the breezy side. I think these numbers here are overdoing it just a little bit, but generally I think we're looking at 15 gusting 30 tomorrow. Some gusts up to the 40 mark as we get into the later part of the day on Saturday, really starting to die off. So this Arctic ridge continues to sink south as we get through Sunday, and then things start to change again as we start to see our pattern changing back to a bit of a warmer pattern as we get into the middle of next week. And then we start to see another Arctic ridge starting to build in a trough in the jet stream, which will really plunge our temperatures as we get into next week. So starting close to -30 with the wind chill feeling closer to -40 in Winnipeg tomorrow, in Westman tomorrow. In Winnipeg, -20 first thing in the morning, looking at a -12 tomorrow afternoon. Brittany, -8 for Sunday, and then we're staying below normal into the middle of next week.
Okay, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
A CBC Marketplace investigation is revealing that when you tip, your money may not actually be going where you think. What used to be a way to say thanks for good service is now a rampant request. And as Christine Burek lays out, the workers aren't always getting that cash.
Here's a tip. A recent survey found 77% of Canadians don't like these tip prompts.
Go ahead.
Since the pandemic, they're seemingly everywhere. But are the workers always getting that money?
Do you get these tips?
No. We visited 100 businesses and found around 3/4 of those places prompt for tips, sometimes making it hard to say no. At several sit-down restaurants, prompts start at 18%. Even after a windshield wiper change, we're asked for a tip.
A lot of people are taken aback by the whole tip concept.
Tips pop up online, self-serve kiosks, and at many fast food places.
Do you get this tip?
Most workers say they do, but not all.
If I leave a tip, do you get this tip? You don't get it. Oh, do you know who gets it? I think the owner.
Often called tip theft, it's illegal in several provinces, including Ontario. Still, workers there have filed nearly 800 tip theft claims this year alone. But in the territories and certain provinces, there are no tip protection laws. Advocates in Nova Scotia estimate some workers are losing thousands of dollars a year.
We put out a survey of workers last year, and about 73% wrote back and said that they had some experience with tip theft.
If you know that the server isn't getting it, then pushing back isn't a problem.
This food and tip researcher says he asks servers if they get their tips, insisting employees and customers need more transparency. And he points out many of those prompts also have us tipping on tax, and we're accepting it.
It's uncomfortable. And what do we do in uncomfortable situations? We try and get out of them as quickly as we can. So let's just push the button, give it back, and then get out of here.
Tipping isn't a social norm in other parts of the world. While living wages and tip theft laws could help workers, experts say until customers hit their tipping point, tip prompts will continue creeping higher and into more businesses. Christine Burek, CBC News, Toronto.
This home in the Deer Lodge neighborhood is all ready for the holidays. We'll have more to come after the break. Stay with us. The federal government is set to make a major announcement here in Winnipeg tomorrow. The Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations will sign a treaty with the Manitoba Métis Federation, the first agreement of its kind with the Red River Métis. Olivia Stefanovich brings us the story.
At the headquarters of the Manitoba Métis Federation, anticipation is building. On Saturday, more than 150 years of history will finally be addressed.
It means to me pride. It's fixing a wrong that's been existing now for so long, over a decade and a half.
President David Chartrand will sign the first ever modern-day treaty between Canada and the Red River Métis, officially recognizing the Manitoba Métis Federation as the government of all Métis citizens with historic roots in the Red River homeland, no matter where they live.
We've always faced the hostility of being recognized as a people that we truly are proud of with our own culture, identity, our own language.
The Red River Métis initially negotiated a treaty with Canada back in 1870. It was called the Manitoba Act, and it led to the province entering Confederation.
The Métis contributed to the founding of this country in creating it.
But Canada's promises of land and economic opportunities were never kept. This new treaty is a step towards changing that.
It corrects history. It shows that when people work at things that we can get it right.
This is a historical day. I'm super excited. It's about moving forward on a nation-to-nation relationship, one that recognizes the authority, the inherent authorities of Indigenous peoples.
And he says it could lead to more agreements to advance Métis rights and interests.
Like all Canadians, we want a justice system that's fair to all as Métis people. We want a good education system for our children. We want to have good health. We want to have adequate housing. And this will give us a chance to work on those things together.
For the treaty to be enforced, the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations must first introduce legislation and get it passed in the House of Commons with a little less than a year before the next scheduled federal election. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Scurvy is something usually only found in history books, but the community of La Ronge, Saskatchewan is currently grappling with the disease. More than 24 cases are linked to malnutrition and the high cost of food. CBC's Alexander Silberman reports.
La Ronge is the hub of Saskatchewan's north, a small town with long winters and vast lakes, struggling with the challenges of isolation and the diseases that come with it, including scurvy.
Susan, do you want to get tea?
At the food bank, volunteers deliver hampers to 50 families each week. They're seeing a growing number of people struggling to put food on the table.
Most weeks we will fill up what we can do and then have to turn people away.
Food insecurity is so dire, doctors at this clinic started noticing symptoms of the centuries-old disease. They later diagnosed 27 cases of scurvy. So rare today, single cases are often the focus of entire studies.
Vitamin C is just sort of a canary in the coal mine, if you will, in terms of what else people might be nutrient deficient in.
The cases have people pointing to high grocery prices. At stores like this one, high transport costs mean fresh fruits and vegetables are often limited and more expensive. And for many, that's putting healthy food increasingly out of reach.
It's crazy. You only got one grocery store, one large grocery store. So, I mean, what do?
I took this picture myself here. Butterball turkey, 21 pounds, $168.
$168 for turkey.
Yeah.
Jordan McPhail represents Northwest Saskatchewan in the provincial legislature. He's hearing from people struggling to afford healthy food, especially in the most remote communities.
Families are making impossible decisions. They're trying to feed their families as most nutritious diet as they can, but they're not able to get the fresh produce.
And actual vitamin C tablets.
The easiest treatment, says Irvin, is these low-cost vitamins. But the scurvy cases highlight the need for sustainable solutions, like harvesting traditional foods high in nutrients.
I think the answer is really like, what does the community value and what does the community want to see on their plate?
A challenge Spring expects will grow as climate change could further impact northern foods. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, La Ronge, Saskatchewan.
The Supreme Court is allowing British Columbia to pursue a class action lawsuit against opioid providers. The court says it's constitutional for BC to go after opioid providers on behalf of other provinces, the territories, and the federal government. Several companies argued that BC was overstepping provincial authority, but the court ruled 6-1 in BC's favor. It noted that nearly every province and territory in Canada and the federal government intend to participate in the proposed lawsuit. The strike at Canada Post is entering its third week, and with no end in sight, it's starting to hit striking workers hard. Kimberly Molina has the story of one employee who's struggling to pay for his cancer treatments after the Crown Corporation cut his benefits.
It's very expensive, and this is a very hard situation for us right now.
Manon Gignac's husband, Marc Caron, has been battling cancer for the past 2 years. In May, they found out it had spread. Gignac says now, since the strike, they're paying some $15,000 a week for his medication and treatments.
Helpless. I'm very shocked about that. Very emotional, because we think that it's unacceptable to be in this situation.
3 days before the strike, Canada Post warned employees that benefits would be cut if they walked off the job. Both sides, Canada Post and the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, said they'd provided different options to have benefits continue, but each side refused.
And for us, we want to get back to the bargaining table once a special mediator calls us and we're able to work to negotiate collective agreements to get benefits back in place. But I feel in the meantime, Canada Post has the ability to reinstate benefits, right now, because like I said before, they didn't do this on every round of bargaining before. And for workers who are in a dire strait with terminal illnesses, this is unconscionable, the actions of Canada Post.
And while a Labour law professor at the University of Ottawa says it is within Canada Post's right to terminate the benefits while employees are on strike, it's also a question of optics.
For the public, it's a corporate image here of how we show empathy for those who actually are on strike or at the limit of their capacities to function in our society, especially when it's a very severe illness such as cancer.
As for Gignac, she says it's marred their family's time together.
We wish we had time just for being with the family and not worry about money.
Kimberly Molina, CBC News, Ottawa.
Retailers were hoping and bracing for crowds of Black Friday shoppers to jumpstart holiday sales.
I plan to go to Coach to get the slippers, and
there were the traditional pre-dawn openings. In Canada, analysts suspect the coming GST holiday might delay some Christmas spending, and many so-called Black Friday sales started earlier. Still, a Retail Council of Canada survey found 40% of respondents planned shopping for today. British lawmakers have approved in principle a bill allowing assisted dying in England and Wales. Under its terms, mentally competent adults who have 6 months or less to live could choose to end their lives with medical help. The bill must pass both the lower and upper chambers of Parliament before becoming law. Supporters of the bill celebrated outside the Parliament building when the 330 to 275 vote result was announced. But as Crystal Gabansing tells us, not everyone is pleased with the outcome.
The ayes to the right, 330. The noes to the left, 275. The ayes have it, and look!
This bill was considered once-in-a-generation legislation because of the monumental impact it could have on society. This issue has been contentious with a lot of emotion on both sides. And in fact, the Labour MP who put the bill forward made a point when the debate started in the House of Commons saying that this was a complex issue, but complex issues is exactly what MPs are supposed to deal with. There has been a lot of emotion inside the House of Commons, but also outside. Both sides were here today trying to make their voices heard, Those opposed to the legislation made a point of saying they saw it as a slippery slope. In fact, they are worried about it progressing to the sort of legislation there is in Canada. I heard from a number of individuals, one of them, Anna Laundrie. She talked about the fact that she's disabled, and until that disabled people have access to what they need, they could fear being a burden and coerced into using this legislation down the line.
In this country, we don't have the support as disabled people to live. It can take people 2 years to get a wheelchair. So when you're looking at offering them the chance to die within 2 weeks, that is just coercive control. And this bill, like many others in countries that have been passed, is likely to be expanded. And I think we did see public opinion in the last week or two really turn in favor of us. I wonder if we were to have this vote next week, whether the result would have been different. But we're going to keep fighting. We've got several more rounds of review, and we'll be back to convince the rather small margin of MPs to switch their vote.
Another individual, 28-year-old Rensa Gaunt, talked about the Canadian system, fearing that eventually it will move towards that system. Right now, here in the UK, as the legislation is written, it will only be for adults in England and Wales who are over the age of 18 and terminally ill. But there is a lot of fear around what will come in a year, in a month, in 6 years when it comes to this legislation. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
After the break, the puck drops tomorrow on the PWHL's second season. And with a new season comes new team names, new jerseys, and hopes of even larger crowds. We'll bring you more when we return. Stay with us. The Professional Women's Hockey League opens its second season this weekend. All 6 teams are in action, and it will all be unfolding amid an air of optimism. The CBC's Sarah Levitt has the story.
New names and jerseys, plus a high-profile video game treatment for EA Sports.
And she gets it!
And Canadian broadcast partners for every single one of the games secured. The Professional Women's Hockey League is back for its sophomore year with season openers Saturday. And the league is trying to live up to the hype of its highly successful first year.
Record after record, step after step, glass ceiling after glass ceiling being shattered, and it doesn't stop here.
It's emotional to think about where the game's come from, where we've come to. We have the ability now for many, many young girls around the world to not see a world that doesn't have professional women's hockey. I think it changes everything.
And those young girls are hyped up. At Bourget College High School just outside of Montreal, these 15 to 18-year-olds are coached by a hockey legend. 3-time Olympic medalist Mélodie Daou decided to retire after playing in the PWHL's inaugural season. Now she coaches the next generation.
They do want to continue, and obviously with the new league, it's something that the girls are looking forward to and hoping and dreaming about it.
Just ask 15-year-old Madison Lévesque, recently named to Quebec's under-18 girls team. It's the first year she's not playing on a boys team.
Every generation before us always wished for a league like this one, and yeah, I think it's great for us.
And do you want to play in it?
Yes, for sure, yeah.
Not only is there a league, there are plans to expand. Cities are clamoring for a chance. More than 25 proposals have already been sent in.
I think the opportunities that are the result of this league are massive.
As the puck drops on season 2, the key is continuing the momentum and keeping fans entertained. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
John Herdman has resigned as coach of Toronto FC as the fallout from soccer's drone spying scandal continues. Herdman became head coach of Toronto FC after leaving the men's national team a year ago. He's not given a reason for leaving the MLS team today. The Canadian women's team was caught using a drone to spy on opponents at the Summer Olympics. The team's head coach, Bev Priestman, lost her job earlier this month. She and 2 of her colleagues are now serving 1-year suspensions imposed by FIFA. Soccer's governing body has also accused Herdman of starting the practice of spying when he was head coach of the women's team. He took that job in 2011. Riley back in now. And Riley, it's Friday. It's been a cold week. I think people are ready for some good news, but I feel like we're going to be staying inside for most of the weekend.
How about catnap?
Catnap, that's good.
There we go.
Cuddle up and have a little catnap, maybe watch a movie.
Just like this cat that I'm going to show you in our forecast for Saturday here. This is Bruce watching the cold weather outside from the comfort of the couch, which is probably what a lot of us are going to be doing across southern Manitoba, particularly tomorrow. Thanks, Pat, for sending this picture, and you can send yours to talkback@cbc.ca. So winds stay a little gusty through the overnight period. We'll start to see them start to die off through the day tomorrow, but still -20 first thing in the morning, feeling colder than that with the wind chill and exposed skin. Up to -10 tomorrow afternoon, northwest winds 15 gusting to 30 and dropping to about -11, -12 by the evening hours. We'll see winds start to taper off as we get through later Saturday into the day on Sunday. So we did clear nicely throughout the day today. We'll start to see some of that cloud building back in tonight through the western edge of the province, Dauphin through Brandon with that extreme cold warning in place, Killarney in that as well. Wind chills could feel closer to -40 overnight tonight, and those temperatures close to -30 tonight through Westman, -21 overnight in Winnipeg, Gimli, the Interlake looking at -17s, -18s, -14s and -13s, where we still have a bit of cloud into northwestern Ontario. A little bit of light snow still lingering around parts of northern Manitoba, -16, -17 through Flin Flon, the Paw. This does taper off west to east through the evening into the overnight period tonight. Thompson -15 tonight, and then we see winds start to pick up and really gusting as we get into the morning hours for Churchill tomorrow, northwest 50, gusting to 70. That's going to keep temperatures pretty close to -10, -11 through the daytime tomorrow. The remnants of some of that snow still off into along the Hudson Bay coast. This particular model, though, not doing a great job picking up some of that lighter flurry activity, which amounts to a trace to a couple of centimeters by the time we get to this time Sunday, more like 2 to 5 in the Shamattawa region along the Hudson Bay coast. For southern Manitoba, a cold start, and we already start to see some of that cloud building back into southern Manitoba into the morning hours tomorrow, barely getting out of the -20s for the Brandon region at -18 tomorrow afternoon. Winnipeg, I think we've got a shot at -10, -9s through Gimli and Peguis, and a bit cloudier again into northwestern Ontario. Temperatures at about -9, -8. Quickly starting December on Sunday, -13s, -12s through Westman. Mainly cloudy skies, Brittany -8. I think we've got some peaks of sunshine here in Winnipeg on Sunday, and cloudier conditions as well back into northwestern Ontario. I'll have your 7-day forecast coming up when I come back.
We'll be looking for that sunshine.
Yes.
Thanks, Riley. There's a new class at the University of Manitoba's School of Music. Métis fiddling is now being offered as a course, the first of its kind in Canada. Reconciliation was the inspiration for the program. Students have access to the fiddles for free, thanks to a grant the school received for the program. CBC Indigenous introduces us to the instructor, a North American Fiddlers Hall of Fame member, and her student, who's discovering the fiddle for the first time.
The fiddle is the heart of the Métis culture as far as music and community. What I'm trying to do, and I've always tried to do, is build a community based around the fiddle. I just think it's great because up until now, music in university has been very classically based. Fiddling is more of an oral tradition where you learn by listening and by playing by ear a lot.
For me, it's been going great. You can ask Patty how her ears are. I'm just joking. This is my first year master's student in my Indigenous Studies program, and it was offered to us as an elective. I just thought, how cool. I've never learned an instrument before. Let's dive in. And it's also been a way of de-stressing when I am researching difficult content on my ancestors. It's been a way to sort of like take the edge off. Without taking this class, I might have quit my program, or I might have isolated myself a little bit more, just being nervous and not really coming out of my shell.
Good job. If you're around it and listening to it all the time, you're going to absorb it and learn it better. With the Métis culture, it's much about community and being around other people doing the same thing. It's really hard not to get taken in by the sheer joy of it all.
The historic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris reopens next week, 5 years after being gutted by fire. Today, it welcomed the people who restored it. The CBC's Heather Gillis reports.
An enduring symbol of Paris, Notre Dame, now restored. French President Emmanuel Macron got a glimpse of the iconic Gothic cathedral, reconstructed.
Le choc de la réouverture.
Saying he believes the shock of Notre Dame reopening will be as strong as the shock of the fire and inspire hope. Reborn from the ashes of that devastating fire in 2019, which took just hours to destroy key parts of the 800-year-old church, one of the most visited monuments in Paris. The spire smashing through timbers spanning its roof, shattering French hearts, and shocking the world. 5.5 years later, it's reopening, rebuilt using medieval methods, wood from centuries-old oak, stained glass, buttresses and gargoyles restored too, costing more than $1 billion Canadian. Macron thanked about 1,000 craftsmen and women for their meticulous work, calling it the project of a century. We owe this metamorphosis to you, he said, transforming coal into art, calling the fire a national wound. These restoration workers, its remedy. Parisians can't wait to see inside, including this Notre Dame superfan. Forged after the fire, the craftspeople who restored the cathedral formed a choir. Now they're practicing for a performance following the reopening. It allows them to find closure, says this engineer. after a strenuous job, one he hopes is ending on a good note. Notre Dame's opening ceremony will happen next weekend, followed by days of special masses to celebrate. It will reopen to the public on December 8th. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Toronto.
The city's winter route parking ban is set to start in just 1 week. That ban will start 2 a.m. next Friday. Once in place, parking is prohibited overnight from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. It's in place every day from December 6th until further notice. This includes times it's not even snowing, and even if a street looks to have recently been cleared. You'll want to look for streets with both the winter and the snow route signs. And if there's any snow in the forecast, well, we'll find out, because Riley's back right after this with a last check on our weekend weather. Stay with us. The province has launched a new snowplow tracker in hopes of helping Manitobans better plan for safe winter travel. The snowplow tracking feature provides real-time updates on Manitoba 511 maps. You can track active plows and where they've been for the past 2 hours. The province says, combined with updates on road conditions and closures, it will let drivers make better, more informed decisions before hitting the road.
This is a really important safety feature for folks to be able to plan their trips a little better, to see what's happening, even sometimes to make decisions about taking a different route, because we know everyone's safer if we give a wide berth to snowplows while they're working, but also to just plan where the clearing has happened.
Track My Plow is available online at manitoba511.ca and as a smartphone app.
I'll remind you of the extreme cold warning that's in place for much of southwestern Manitoba, Killarney through Wawanesa, Glenborough, Brandon, Dauphin into Verdun, Roblin, Russell. We're looking at temperatures close to -30 tonight, feeling closer to -40 with the wind chill in southwestern Manitoba. Not as cold in Winnipeg, but certainly we're going to feel the chill tonight. -21, -10 tomorrow under a mainly cloudy sky. Slight chance you could see a couple of scattered flurries. -8 on the way for Sunday, mostly cloudy, maybe a couple peaks of sunshine. Our next best chance to see the sun, I think, is coming on Monday with a high of -11. -10, some snow rolls through Tuesday into Wednesday. Nothing too major in terms of accumulation. And then we're looking at a mainly sunny sky to end the week. We'll see another ridge of high pressure building and some Arctic air coming in as we get toward the end of next week. Well, for many families, making a gingerbread house this time of the year is a bit of a tradition.
But an architectural society in London is taking it to the next level. Here's your Daily Lift. Well, appropriately, it's exhibiting a gingerbread city with the architects on hand. There's everything from towers and trains to mansions and Santa sleighs. The theme is environmental, exploring how building can be reused, reducing carbon-intensive demolition and construction.
Now, forget reusing these ones as dessert, though. The dough and the icing were not mixed for taste, but to be, in the designer's words, structurally sound. It's kind of disappointing. I mean, it's cool.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, but I'd really like to just dig into it after.
I don't know. I don't get most of the candies on there to begin with. I just eat them. Good day to stay home making gingerbread house. Have a wonderful weekend.